2 years ago, I was working in Washington, D.C., while my partner, Molly, was in school in North Carolina. Since we lived 300 miles apart, I spent a lot of my weekends in the car driving down I-95. I loved that feeling of getting to Molly's and bursting through the door. And to be honest, I felt like a pretty good partner for making the trip so often. Now, instead of 2 years ago, imagine my relationship were unfolding 200 years ago. Instead of hopping in my Subaru, maybe I'd be hopping on Subaru. Back then, those trips would have been a pretty big deal. It's not like I could have taken them every other week, since the trips would have taken a week themselves. The truth is, unless I moved, I couldn't have seen Molly more often if I wanted to, and I would have been a pretty absent partner. How amazing is it that today I can make the 300-mile trip so easily? Think about the sheer number of people that had to collaborate to build and pave the highways, manufacture the vehicles, and invent the tech that make the trip possible. Think about the number of problems that had to be solved to launch GPS satellites into the sky. Today, I'm awesome for frequently making the pretty easy drive. But 200 years ago, I would have stunk as a partner, probably literally, even though the trip would have taken tons more effort. Here's the key. Remember this. Both now and back then, I would have wanted to take the trip just as often. But 200 years ago, the lack of a car would have made me a lackluster partner. I had no inherent flaw as a human or in my character. I was just missing the right tools. Now, long-distance relationships aren't always easy, but for me, the chance to live in DC was a dream. For as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with politics, policy, and economics. I actually went to school for engineering, studying tools and equations and problem solving, but I wanted to work in DC because I had this kind of naive hope that if I was there and I met the right people, I could uncover the carefully guarded secrets of how government really works. It was coming from a good place. I've always been just so frustrated with how toxic politics can be. We all are, right? I mean, you see some pundit spouting garbage, everyone's retweeting it, and there's this enormous frustration for a lot of us that society won't just listen to the experts, people with actual qualifications. Wouldn't some expert somewhere have the right ideas to fix our problems? Well, I was on one of these drives from DC to North Carolina. I was listening to an episode of the Planet Money podcast by NPR. And the episode opened with a story about the British scientist Sir Francis Galton in 1906. Galton was in his 80s and had a steadfast belief that only a small portion of the population had the smarts to keep society running. While he was at a county fair, Galton came across a competition to guess the weight of an ox on display after it had been slaughtered and dressed. About 800 people made a guess, and most were just members of the general public and not ox experts. Galton got a copy of all the guesses and did some analysis. The true weight of the slaughtered ox ended up being 1,198 pounds. So what did the crowd average? 1,197 pounds, only 1 pound off. Now, NPR recreated the experiment themselves in 2019 using around 17,000 people online, only 3,000 of whom said they had prior experience working with cows. Now, as you can see, the 3,000 experts surveyed did well. But what happens when you average in the 14,000 members of the general public? The guess got even better. The crowd again beat the experts. I won't provide a defense of the power of crowdsourcing. Many other people have done an extraordinary job of that. But when I was listening to this story, I was losing my mind, jumping out of my seat, burning with a question. Why can't we use the crowd to solve huge social problems this way? Not stuff like guessing the weight of a cow, but like climate and healthcare policy, life-altering, massive, complex social issues with tons of moving parts. Look at Wikipedia. It leverages the crowd so well in the information space. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good, and let's be honest, most of us use it on a practical basis. Most articles are free of extreme partisan bias and provide a balanced explanation of a topic. And what about open source software? Millions of people all around the world collaborate to write amazing code. These examples prove that crowd collaboration can work well. So why haven't we replicated this success yet to solve social challenges? For so much of my life, I was frustrated that we wouldn't follow the advice of the experts. Was I wrong? If you look at the comment sections on Facebook and threads on Twitter, it can be hard to have a lot of confidence in the public sometimes. I mean, most qualified experts really do have a much better grasp of real solutions than people in those comment threads. I've also seen some crowdsourcing tools sold to businesses, but they're mostly just for internal use and don't really poll the true open crowd on the internet. What about popular online question and answer websites? Well, for a question like, how do we solve climate change, there are tons of individual, siloed answers. Sure, the crowd is contributing, but nobody is collaborating. Each answer stands alone and is subject to the bias and credibility of each individual author, none of whom is perfect. Even academic research isn't immune from some of these issues, where wide collaboration can sometimes be lacking. Could you imagine if you went to Wikipedia looking for an article on climate change, and instead of one single article, you got a list of 1 million different articles, all written by different people? Or what if, instead of thousands of developers working on the same software, each one built their own from the ground up, and every user had to choose between thousands of versions of redundancy? Both of these situations would be maddening. So why do we try to solve social challenges that way? Crowdsourcing, under the right circumstances, can beat the experts, like in Finding the Weight of an Ox. We write articles and make amazing software. People working together works. But in solving policy and non-technical challenges, like through comment threads and question and answer sites, the crowd can suddenly be hateful and unproductive. Suddenly people can't work together anymore. I just don't buy it. Our world sometimes feels more polarized and hopeless than ever. Our best expert solutions can't always solve every part of every issue, and even if they could, they might have implementation challenges or be politically infeasible. It feels inevitable that the toxicity online will keep getting worse, and that it's our human nature to fight and argue and hurt one another, especially behind a screen. What if the problem, all the hate, all these terrible solutions on question and answer sites, what if it isn't our fault? You know what I think? When it comes to Wikipedia and open source software, we work well together because we have the right tool, the right platforms to facilitate productive collaboration. When it comes to solving social challenges, we're stuck riding the comment thread horse. We're all just doing the best we can given the tools we have. I mean, Facebook comments weren't built to reform our tax code, but it's what we have as non-expert individuals to communicate our thoughts. Can anyone really be all that surprised by the outcome? There are so many of us who want to make a difference and who want to see our great social challenges get solved, or at least to make meaningful progress. It's overwhelming how many of us want to make the world a better place, and I choose to believe that most humans in general do, given the chance. So I don't think we fail as a society at productive dialogue because we're doomed, because we have too much irredeemable polarization and division, or because we're just too evil. When it comes to crowd solving, I just believe we don't yet have the right tool. So I quit my job in DC to build one. From talking to people about the kinds of problems they'd like to see solved, I hear a lot of suggestions for ones that are national or global in scale. But I also hear people talking about local issues as well. Maybe a public lot with a chronic littering problem, or a university whose students can't always afford the food they need. Maybe you can think of several too. To build a better tool that can solve all of these challenges, I wanted to keep the pros of crowdsourcing platforms that work, but address the downsides of comment threads, closed business-only platforms, and question and answer sites. Crowdsolve is my attempt at building this tool, an online platform that lets unlimited numbers of users, you guys, all over the world, to build a single collaborative solution for an issue. This is Crowdsolve. What you're seeing here is a screenshot of a demo build of the platform where I had some testers pretend solve the issue of food insecurity on a fictional college campus. Rather than showing off Crowdsolve's design, I'm instead going to focus on the theory, Crowdsolve's 4 principles that enable better collaboration. Crowdsolve's first principle is that it's open to all. Crowdsolve will always have a place for local communities or even the entire world to come together to solve issues that affect everyone. Anyone with an internet device will be able to contribute no matter who or where they are. I want all of you listening to be able to participate, and I don't just want Crowdsolve to be another closed business-only tool. One of the things that's great about Wikipedia and open source software is that everyone works together on the same article or program. You don't see that so much with combative Facebook comments, question and answer sites, or unfortunately, even a lot of academic research where everyone is saying their piece, but not everyone is working together. This is addressed by Crowdsolve's second principle, one solution per issue. On Crowdsolve, everyone works together to build one solution set, facilitating collaboration, not just compilation. Everyone contributes puzzle pieces that solve the same puzzle, rather than each person trying to solve their own. Now, when you're editing a Wikipedia article, you can contribute only a single sentence or word if you want. And with code, you only have to contribute a single line of code or less. Crowdsolve enables the same thing through its third principle, granular productive contributions. On Crowdsolve, people can't write entire paragraphs of a solution, nor delete others. This protects against bad actors coming in and sabotaging large swaths of progress. Instead, issues get deconstructed into a hierarchy of parts. Sub-issues, the smaller issues that comprise a larger issue. The root causes of those sub-issues. Idea proposals to solve the root causes. And their challengers that provide constructive, workable alternatives, not just counterpoint. Justifications and citations to outside sources back up why a root cause is really a root cause and why an idea proposal could work. Users contribute as much or as little as they want across each layer, one small piece at a time. Ultimately, users can vote on any contribution, and an algorithm takes the top voted contributions from across the site and rolls them up into one ever-evolving solution set. I am so excited to see what kind of solutions get created, and I hope you are too. I was just talking to someone interested in leveraging the Crowdsolve platform in their organization the other day. And they were telling me that some of their LGBT members don't always feel comfortable speaking up and sharing their ideas. I've experienced a similar discomfort as a person of color. That's why this final fourth principle of Crowdsolve is especially important. Anonymity. When you make a contribution, no matter how many votes your idea gets, you'll receive no public credit directly attached to what you said. How often have you seen people commenting nonsense to get likes and retweets? It's so frustrating to see those comments beat out more meaningful contributions. Maybe you've had a good idea, but were afraid to share it because of what others might think, what your boss or your company might think. At the end of the day, only the quality of an idea truly matters. Name recognition does not make an idea good. And there are plenty of people living the effects of issues every day who aren't celebrities that have amazing ideas for how to solve them. Anonymity is a terrible solution for discrimination in the long run because it isn't a solution. But we can't afford to wait for the world to change and miss wonderful ideas until it does. We need these ideas and voices now, and a layer of protection can help us hear all kinds of viewpoints that might otherwise be silenced. If you're listening to this talk, you're probably the type of person who would go the extra mile to make the world a better place. Even when it feels hopeless, even when it feels like nothing will ever get better, you'll still try. So let's give it a shot. With enough of us working together, we can make excellent creative solutions, and our collaboration can heal division in our world and eventually be impossible for politicians to ignore. One day, Crowdsolve could help us work together to make meaningful contributions in our communities, nonprofits, universities, businesses, countries, and world. If Crowdsolve ends up making even the smallest positive difference, at least for me, this will all have been worth it. As it stands now, Crowdsolve will likely need a ton of refinement to truly be useful. Much like how the car is a huge upgrade over the horse in most cases, the first car ever made probably wasn't. Feedback from people like you will be invaluable. Look, technology and tools will always grow and change, but what really makes them work are us, the people who use them. Steve Jobs captured this vision well. Technology is nothing. What's important is that you have a faith in people, that they're basically good and smart, and if you give them tools, they'll do wonderful things with them. Let's not give up on each other. I challenge you to renew your belief in our amazing ability and drive to help one another. Don't confuse lackluster tools with lackluster character. Given the right tools, we will make our world a better place, whether that's by solving climate change or by driving through the night to put a smile on someone's face. We will solve our world's toughest challenges. I hope you'll join me in doing so. Thank you.